In the Trenches with Dave Lapham, presented by First Star Logistics, caught up with the legendary Jim Breech, place kicker extraordinaire, leading scorer in Cincinnati Bengals history. The bigger the game, the bigger Jim Breech stepped up. I'll tell you what, Mr. Clutch, 9 for 9 in overtime field goals, best in National Football League history. We'll find out all about Jim Breech. I think you're going to like it. And you have to be happy with the reinforcing of the trenches. Does any player stick out to you? I am very happy with the reinforcement in the trenches. And the thing that they did, I think, so well is there are multiple players. Instead of just going with one guy, they traded down and got multiple draft picks available in the 4th round. And they drafted offensive lineman Jackson Carman out of Clemson with the 46th pick instead of the 38th pick. And they had him on their board. They had him that value, that type of player, with a couple of other offensive linemen. They thought if they went to 46 and one of those 3 guys were still there, they'd be happy and pick up additional 4th round pick. They got 2 4th round picks in so doing. And then they just readdressed the offensive and defensive line. Cam Sample, defensive lineman from Tulane, Tyler Shelvin, defensive tackle from LSU, and another offensive lineman, Deontay Smith out of East Carolina. 35-inch arms, 85-inch wingspan. Ugh. He can tie his shoes without bending over. I think the guys that they've added up front in the offensive and defensive line, 7 of the 10 players they drafted were in the trenches. Welcome once again to the beautiful First Star Logistics Studios. Joined this morning by the legendary Jim Breech. Welcome to the podcast, my sir. How you be?
I'm doing good. How about you, Dave?
Hanging in there, Jimbo. Hanging in there for sure. Jim Breech, all-time leading scorer in Cincinnati Bengals history. When you were drafted by the Detroit Lions in the 8th round, did you think you would be the all-time leading scorer for the Cincinnati Bengals?
I was just hoping to play one game for Detroit and then maybe Oakland. You know, you're just trying to get on the board, right? And right. The funny thing I do remember though is we're in Pontiac, and along the side of the stadium it says home of Super Bowl 16, and I never thought I'd certainly play in Detroit. The only time I got to play in a real game in Detroit was in the Super Bowl.
That's crazy. That is nuts. Let's go in the Wayback Machine though, because in high school, I mean, you were just a hell of an athlete, no question about it. Sacramento High School. How many sports did you play? And you played them all at a high level. How many sports did you play in high school?
I played football, basketball, and baseball. Didn't have a soccer program, but that was the same time as basketball, and they've started that, I think, my junior year. So I really wasn't. Our high school was considered the most integrated high school in the country.
Really?
So 10 of our 11 starters on our soccer team were born outside the U.S.
Wow.
So they grew up playing soccer, and then they had one kid that was 6'2", 200 pounds. And he was the enforcer. He just ran around knocking people over, and they won the city title year after year. So I thought I couldn't play. I'm learning to play the game. I had no idea what I was doing, so I knew I couldn't do it. And then baseball really was my first love. And then my senior year, the golf coach comes to me. He says, "I heard you're a decent golfer, so I like to play." He says, "How would you like to play in our regionals or whatever they had? Which sectionals were coming up?" So we're in an inner city high school, but there's also a part of it that comes from an area where there's some golfers, right? So if 4 guys are scoring, 3 of them are shooting 82, 83, which was decent.
Yeah.
And the 4th and 5th guys, 6 guys were shooting 110, 120. He says, "I think you could help us." So we go out and play 9 holes one day, and I shot like 43 or 44. And first time I touched a club since the previous summer. He says, "You're in." So I played in the sectional. I think I shot 83. We all shot around 83. And we set a no scoring record for the school only because the 4th guy was, scored decently. But we weren't even close Yeah, these guys are shooting in the low 70s, mid 70s.
But what's your handicap now? About a 2?
Now it's 5. I'll tell you what, Dave. I feel like I hit it just as hard, but I get to the ball a lot sooner than I used to.
I hear you. I hear that, my man. But like in baseball, what position did you play? Were you shortstop, center fielder kind of thing?
Yes. I played short. I played second. I played third. I came up more as a third baseman and a pitcher. And then when I got into somebody convinced me I shouldn't pitch because I'd thrown a lot of curveballs in Little League and the senior league. So I really regret that. I didn't pitch. But I caught. I would have fit in really well with today's game because I really played everywhere. I even played some first base, but I kind of doubt they'd let me have played first base. But I played every other position at some point in time and loved it. I loved playing baseball. Matter of fact, my freshman year at Cal, I was an infielder, and they put me on the JV team, which was fine. And they asked me if I'd play center field because they were short an outfielder. I went out and played center field and absolutely loved it.
Position versatility, no question about that. How about as a hitter? How'd you hit?
That was the best part. I faced grew up in Sacramento. Dusty Baker's from Sacramento. Randy Lurch was my time, so I faced Randy Lurch a few times. Let's see, I'm trying to think. The guy pitched for Minnesota. Guy pitched about 10 years for the Twins. Played him in the American Legion California tournament. And one thing I could do, I could hit those guys. I got hits. I mean, I hit them. So I could hit. I loved hitting. The one thing I was lacking was great speed. Had really good quickness.
Yeah.
But the wall came like at 10 yards. Some guys hit it at like 40. Mine was about 10, and it was slowing down from there.
Had that short space quickness. What about point guard in basketball, right?
I was, yeah. We were okay. We did okay. Actually, we were terrible. We won like 3 games, both of my junior and senior years. I probably averaged 10 points, 2 or 3 assists. I really loved playing basketball. It was a fun sport. Played till up to my 50s.
Right.
Just love running around, getting out. I think it's a great sport.
Yeah, I'll tell you, all-around athlete, though. That's the thing people don't realize, that Jim Breech can do just about anything athletically. Unbelievable eye-hand coordination. And what got you into kicking? What got you into that aspect of football?
I think one of the things, people think that you're a kicker, that's all you do.
Right.
But typically, kickers are really good athletes. They can play a multitude of sports because that hand-eye coordination. I'll give you an example. Mike Martin had a camp years ago. There was 100 kids, and he said, "Can you do something with kicking?" And I said, "All right, we'll just punt, because trying to put the ball on a tee and teach these kids, you can just hold it and kick it, right?" Well, out of 100 kids, to just take the ball, put it out, and kick it, 2.
Really?
One was my son, Joe, and the other one was a wide receiver that ended up being an all-city wide receiver at Elder. That was it. Everybody else just kind of threw the ball up in the air. They had no feel for just dropping the ball and kicking. And yet I'll have parents come up all the time, say, "Oh, my son's going to be small. I think I want him to be a kicker." And I'm thinking, I understand why you're saying it, but I think there's a lot more to it than just deciding you want to do it.
You mentioned then you moved on from high school to University of California, Berkeley. What other options were you considering at that point in time, and why did you pick Cal Berkeley?
Well, my junior year, I was all-city kicker in Sacramento. And then going into my senior year in two-a-days, we only kicked once a week. So we do a whole bunch of kicking, kickoffs, punts, field goal, everything. I'd be doing both for both sides. And my quad started bothering me. And the coach says, "Oh, it's just because we're early." And it continued. I ended up tearing my quad.
Oh, wow.
Now, the funny part was I could still run, but you take the leg back a little farther on a kick, and it was like somebody was sticking a knife in my leg. So I kicked in the first couple of games, and I couldn't kick. So I made all-city quarterback that year, but I kicked in like 2 games.
All-city quarterback.
Yeah. So
that's great.
So Cal had been interested. Cal was there were 2 teams. Cal had shown two colleges, Cal and Kansas.
Okay.
Tom Dinkle ended up being a Kansas. Could have been a teammate.
Right.
And so coach sent the film to Kansas. They did send the film back. No reply, nothing. There was nothing coming back. And then Cal actually signed a kid from Sacramento because I got hurt and I kind of was off the radar. A kid by the name of Butch Edge.
Huh.
Butch Edge was 6'4", straight on kicker, punter, kicker, and quarterback. Basically same as me, almost a foot taller though. So he was the 5th kicker punter at Cal on a full ride. If you remember, that was during the times of unlimited scholarships.
Right. Right.
So we go through the draft. Baseball draft happens. He's a pitcher. He gets drafted in the first round by Milwaukee.
Wow.
I didn't get drafted. So my high school coach, Dave Hotel, coach calls up. Paul Hackett was our area recruiter. He calls Hack up. He says, look, he was hurt last year. He's fine now. How about just coming down and taking a look at him? Because right now I'm going to Sacramento State College. I'm going to play football and baseball. Jerry Weinstein, who's become huge in that area, he's well known, won national championships. He was just starting at Sac State, so actually would have been a good move probably. So anyway, he calls up Cal, and so Hackett comes over one day while he's on a recruiting trip, stops by. I kick. He says, well, you look pretty good. I don't have a clue, really. Why don't you come down for a tryout? I said, yeah, I'm there. Shoot, heck yeah. So we set up a time and everything. I jump in the car. I borrow my mom's car. I drive down the hour and 15 minutes. So I go from Sacramento, little Sacramento Valley town, to Berkeley. It's like a different space station. I mean, it was a different place.
Yeah.
Couldn't find parking. Finally did. I get it. I find the gym and where the football offices are. I walk up. Jim Erkenbeck was the special teams coach, and I find him, and he's like, well, "Who are you?" And I'm like, "Breech. I was supposed to come down and kick for you." Oh, that's right. All right, yeah. So we got to go up to the stadium because he looked around. There's nothing around there. So let's go up to the stadium. So we get up to the stadium. He looks at me. He goes, "Did you bring any balls before we leave?" No, coach. I mean, I thought you guys would have footballs. And he says, all right. So he goes, fine. So he goes, go ahead and get changed. I said, is there any place to change? And we start walking. All the doors are locked. So I'm out in the middle of the stadium, changing my clothes. The sprinklers are going out on the field. And he's running off trying to find footballs. And so we get down there and we're walking around and we find this big cement thing and we pull that off. And that's where all the mechanicals were. We get the water turned off. So we're sitting there on the field. He's tossing me some balls and I'm punting. I was actually being more recruited as a punter.
Really?
Than it was a play, which it's a good thing I didn't make it there. It was not good. But I kicked really well. And he says, you place kick too. I said, yeah. And I said, I thought you would have tees. And so I didn't come prepared that way. I did bring my shoes and that was about it. So we hunt around and the cement cover, he says, oh, that'll work. So we carry that over, put it out about 30, 35 yards. Let's kick off of this.
Huh.
So I'm thinking, I'm going to kick this thing. I'm going to break my foot and it's done. I'm done, right? So I made all my kicks. We didn't go back any farther than that just because, but I didn't kick them great, but I made them. We get done and he says, look, we're really looking for an offensive lineman. We're not looking for a kicker. We have a whole bunch of kickers. So I'm like, why am I here?
Yeah.
So I jump in the car, drive back. About 2 weeks later, draft has happened. I don't get drafted. Paul Hackett calls me and he says, look, just to give you some background, I tried 9 field goals in high school. I made 4 of them. I think 2 or 3 of them were blocked. So, I mean, they have really no idea, right? If I can kick. I'm not even sure if I can kick. And he says, look, I don't know why we're doing this, but there's a full scholarship for you here.
Wow.
I said, Coach, I'll be there tomorrow. So I borrow my mom's car, drive back down. I signed the letter. That was it. That was my only chance.
Wow.
There were no other schools except for Sac State, which I'd already started doing my workout, preparing for their season. So about a week later, I'm playing in a semi-pro baseball league. Great league, a lot of college players, former major league players. We had Jimmy Nelson, who pitched for the '71 Pirates, was one of our pitchers. I mean, it was a phenomenal league. Guys playing at Oregon State, which was a huge power then. And so I got to play there as a sophomore. And to be a sophomore in that league was like unbelievable. And so we had 3 sophomores. 2 of them went to Arizona State on full rides, and then me on the same team. And yeah, we were nothing in that league. We were just kind of just hanging loose. And if we got in a game, that was great. But it was cool to be out there. And so I got to play a little bit. And so anyway, the Pittsburgh scout, Ronnie King, walks up to the fence. He says, "Hey, Breech, I saw you signed a letter of intent to go to Cal." I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Congratulations. I just want to let you know we are interested. We were interested in signing you.
Really?
But, I think you should take the scholarship. If you play baseball, if baseball's supposed to work out," he said, "it'll work out." So I went down, played 1 year of college baseball, and actually led the junior varsity in hitting. But I was good. They made me go back and forth. So I'm running up to the stadium for spring ball, running back down, trying to go back and forth. I only played in like 10 or 12 games. And then a new coach took over. Jackie Jensen was the head coach on the varsity. It was just unbelievable. One of the greatest moments of my life. We're doing a hitting drill where you position, like you're running the bases, got to run around second, got to hit the ball to the right side. And he's calling all these out and what you're supposed to do. And it's live pitching. And it was my turn, and he's frustrated. All of a sudden, I get up there, and I start hitting line drives all over the field. Just, now there's a hitter. And to this day, one of the greatest compliments of my life was Jackie Jensen calling me a really good hitter. So
About that.
So I played that year. They asked me to come back the next year, and I said, I can't. I was married. I'm trying to do football plus school, and I said, no, look, I got to figure out how to kick. I got to do this thing really well.
Yeah.
If it hadn't been for my high school coach calling them, who knows what would happen. But there's a little bit more to the story. So Butch Edge gets drafted by Milwaukee. If you remember, Toronto was an expansion team in the 70s. So I'm trying out. I'm in Oakland in training camp. And Butch Edge had been the first round pick with Toronto. So his first round pick with Milwaukee, first round pick with Toronto. So he goes to Toronto. They're playing the A's. I beat out Earl Mann. Comes out in the paper the next day. Breech outs Mann for Raider job. Right below it, Blue Jay rookie wins first pro game. And it was Butch Edge. The guy, if he doesn't sign with Milwaukee, who knows? I don't know how things would have turned out.
It's crazy how the twists and turns. There's no doubt. When you were kicking at Cal, did you start the practice there of wearing a much smaller shoe on your kicking foot than your non-kicking foot? It was like 2 sizes difference, wasn't it?
2 sizes, yeah. No, I didn't. It was hard to find shoes just at 7s, and I was wearing a 7, and those really good leather shoes stretched out quite a bit. And because we used the T, I didn't even think about it then, so I didn't worry about it. The hardest part was we played on grass, and when we went to play AstroTurf teams, we're wearing those red Rydell red bottoms, and guys are sliding all over the field when it's wet out.
Yeah.
And we finally at Washington State one time, it's raining there, and I got there early, I go in to see their equipment manager. Said, "Do you have anything in about 7.5 in a turf shoe?" And he said, "Yeah." So on that film, I'm wearing I got blue stripes on my shoe. He let me have it. And I didn't, you weren't falling over them, but we weren't prepared for AstroTurf at all.
Yeah. So the theory behind the smaller size, just you felt like you had better control basically, or
better feel, plus kicking off the ground. You don't want anything dragging and hitting the ground. So you want, it's just Lee Johnson, if you can imagine him. If you remember, he punted without a shoe. And when we got to Cincinnati, we convinced him to put his shoe on, but he took the tongue out. He would kick with no sock, just the shoe. And then he would cut off the bottom of his sock to make it look like it was going down in his shoe, but he didn't actually have a sock on. And he had a bare foot, and he had a shoe that was tight because he really liked the feel of kicking it barefooted, but this way it actually gave it better control. So yeah, but most guys probably do wear a size and a half to 2 sizes small. I mean, I used to get the shoes come in the mail, I'd stick it on, and I put it in a bucket of water, and then I just sit around with a towel or walk around with it trying to break it in, because it would just kind of form to your foot that way. So it was a little bit of a process.
So at Cal, who was instrumental in your development as a kicker at Cal?
Bob Bryant. Oh gosh, Coach Bryant. I can't even think it was Bart or Bob. Coach Bryant was there. Seriously, Dave, nobody had a clue.
Yeah.
They didn't have any clue what a soccer style kicking was. Tell you the truth, I was trying to figure it out. Nobody really had any idea. I mean, I went to a camp when I was 12 years old, 1968. Ron Miller, I remember him. He'd kicked at Cal, and he was kicking for the Sacramento semi-pro team. So we go to this camp, and, Gogolak, Yepremian, and my favorite of all, the Gogolak brothers,
Right.
Jan Stenerud, my hero. That's why I wore number 3, because of Jan Stenerud. These are all soccer style kickers. So I just tried to do what I saw them doing. So I get there and I said, hey, I'd like to kick soccer style. And he's like, well, I only kick straight on. I have no clue. And then we have tees. In college, I had tees. So he had 2-inch block. He said, that messed me up. No tees. So here I'm 12 years old, have no idea how to kick the ball off the soccer style. I'm still trying to figure out how to kick soccer style. And now I got to kick it off the ground. I mean, I don't think I got a ball over the crossbar all day. And the other guys were struggling too, kicking straight on. So we get all the way to the end. You know how they bring everybody together. Parents, come on in. You're picking up the kids. We're gonna, hey, you most improved, best kicker, blah blah blah. He stops and he points at me. He says, "And you were the most disappointing." I'm like, what can I say? So that's the kind of stuff that was going on. And really, about my early to mid 30s, I figured it out. It took that long of just trial and error. If you watch when kickers kick today, they stand really tall. When we were doing it, a lot of guys would squinch. We'd go down to the ball. Now, kicking off, that's one thing. But when the ball's on the ground, it doesn't allow the ball to go up very well, but you lose power because your weight kind of gets distributed back towards your rear end, and it's just hard to get much power going that way. And these guys today stand very tall. So when they come to their ball, their whole body is kind of like this. They'll be here and they move in this way, and everything, all that momentum, all that power is all coming together at the same time. And I actually discovered that in Kansas City. I hurt my back the night before. One of the kids jumped out of the car and I caught him with my arms away and I got a back spasm. And I'm probably 33 or 34. I'm thinking, you can't spend any time in the training room, right? When you're getting older,
Right.
Because it's like out the door. So we get to Kansas City and I can't touch my knees. I'm thinking, I don't know what I'm going to do. So I've got a sleeve on over my back. I've got atomic bomb. I got everything I can think of to warm up my back. And I go out there and all I can do is pretty much stand up really straight and kind of swing my leg.
Yeah.
I'm hitting balls over the top of the uprights, over the net, 45 yards. They're in the top of the net. I'm like, what the heck is going on? And really, like training camp when I was 37, best training camp I ever had. I was making everything from 50. I didn't miss a kick for 6 weeks in that training camp when I got cut. So I figured it out, but I never got a chance. When I finally figured it out and implemented it for a period of time, I never really got a chance to find out how I would do with it.
That's just unbelievable. Your journey to the Bengals had an interesting twist. The Raiders end up letting you go. The Bengals let Chris Barr go. Teams end up swapping kickers basically. But the Cleveland Browns made a little run in there, didn't they? Didn't Cleveland reach out to you as well? Give us that story.
Dave Lapham here, and every day I am grateful for my experience to have played professional football. As a player, I realized self-motivation, Leadership and appreciating your teammates are key. At First Star Logistics, you can use those same attributes to create the life you want for you and your family. Build your future by working hard like I did. You'll see results both on and off the field. Call First Star Logistics today and be part of our winning team.
They did. So the reason the Raiders loved Chris Barr coming out of college. I mean, loved him. And if you're you're familiar with the Raiders. If they had their eyes on the guy, so I knew being a Raider fan when Chris Barr was released.
Right.
I'm looking for a job. So anyway, I'm out, and about the 10th week, it was the 12th week. Cardiac Kids, here they are. You know, they're having a great year. Paul Warfield calls me. I'm at work, Clearprint Paper Company in Emeryville, California. I'm at work. I get on the phone, and Paul says, "Look, Don Cockcroft's back and knee are bad. He's hurting. We don't know if he's going to be able to make it. We'd like to fly you in we'd fly you in over the weekend, see if he can get through this game, and if he does, probably fly you back." Well, the weekend comes, he kicks in the game. Don't get a call. Monday, I get a call from Cleveland. I get a call from a team. When somebody says, "Hey, there's a call from one of the teams here for you." So I get on the phone thinking it's Cleveland, right? I'm going to hear Paul Warfield.
Right.
It was Frank Smouse. Frank was called. I had no idea the Bengals were having any issues. So Frank says, "We'd like to have you come out and work out for us. You're experienced, right?" Al Davis let me kick that rookie year, and that really got me 13 years because the Bengals were now looking for an experienced kicker because if you remember, Sandro Vitiello in Cleveland had trouble keeping the ball in the field.
Yeah.
And he was really kicking the ball low. I remember watching the video where remember the jumper in Cleveland jumped so high, it passed underneath the guy's waist, went right by him. Right. So Mike said, we need somebody with some experience. Yeah. So I get on the phone with Inky and set up a time. And I'm in Emeryville. I got to go back the opposite way to get a change of clothes and to get to San Francisco. And I'm running because, you know, with the 3-hour time difference, I'm going to get in it was pretty much the last flight. So I make it. Today, I wouldn't have made it. Wow. I think I got on the plane like 3 minutes before the doors were closing. So I fly in and they said, "Get the limo. When you get to the airport, get the limo, go to I think it was Stouffer's." Okay. So I'm looking around. There's some guy in a 3-piece suit standing there next to me, and we're looking around, waiting, and I'm like, "Oh, where's the limo?" And then it's one of the vans pulls up, and it says limousine on it, like hotel limousine, and it's just a hotel van, right? So we jump on that. We drive down to Stouffer's. They said, "Go to Spinney Field in the morning." Okay, can't be that hard. It said it's really close. It's really close. So in the morning, I call for a cab. We're kicking at 10. So they said it's 5 minutes away. I leave at 9. I'll be there at 9:05, 9:10. I'll be stretched out way in advance. So, you know, I'm good. Because I stretched out a little bit in the room, a little antsy. You know, I got up early because of the time difference. I showed up at 9:50. You know how close Stouffer's and Spinney were, right?
Abby had no idea, huh?
The guy had I said, "Spinney Field." He goes, "I don't know where it is." I said, "It's close. I know it's close." He just starts driving around. He's trying to radio. Nobody can. Finally, somebody gets on and it's like, "Go across the bridge, turn right." And it was it. And I show up and Mike is just walking down the hallway toward his office. And he introduced himself. And I said, "Mr. Brown, I am so sorry. I left at 9 o'clock and I'm just getting here now. The cab driver didn't have any clue." He goes, "You know, this can be a hard place to find." He goes, and it was miserable. I left the Bay Area. It was 75 and sunny. I get here. It's 25 and the 25-mile-an-hour wind blowing. It was miserable. He goes, "Look, it's not a great day outside. We'll let the other guy." So I walk into the locker room and Rich Zarro is the other guy. Well, it turns out he was the one standing next to me the night before. Really? In the 3-piece suit because he worked on Wall Street. So he went out and kicked. And the best thing I had going for me was Blair Bush was snapping and Mike Levenseller was holding. And Levy, I get out there, and Levy's telling me everything. And he goes, Pack 8's ruling here. We're going to win this. We're going to win this. It's like we're a team. It was great. I went out and actually kicked off really well, and ended up winning the job. They sent him on the way, and then Mike has me come into his office. Now, Lee Steinberg was my agent. So I walk into and he says, look, if they're going to sign you or anything, make sure you call me first. Right? I mean, everybody.
Sure.
But you know how that, PB and Mike, they don't like agents.
Oh,
they hated agents, actually. So I walk in there with Mike, and basically they're going to offer me what the Raiders were going to pay me and just prorate it, for the last 4 games. In my mind, that seemed very fair, but I did say, look, Lee Steinberg's representing me, and he wanted me to call, and he looks at me, he says, Jim, Rich Zorro isn't at the airport yet. We can easily bring him back. So you have 2 choices. We can call Lee Steinberg. Rich Zorro will kick for us. Where do I sign?
Oh, that sounds very
classic,
familiar.
isn't it?
Yeah, very familiar. You talked about 25 degrees and 25 miles an hour. Kicking in the freezer bowl. That thing against San Diego, 59 below wind chill, 9 below raw temperature, 59 below with the wind. Wasn't that like kicking a rock or a brick? I mean, I remember seeing your foot was all bruised up.
Yeah, it was all black and blue the next day. It was, the ball, now they have a spot in the benches where they can stick them in there and they keep them warm, but then they didn't have anything like that. So all the balls, if you remember, we used a brand new ball, and those were already terrible to kick.
Right.
And now they were like rocks. The best thing that happened for me was I only had one extra point into the wind. Rolf Benerschke had 2 field goal attempts into the wind. And remember, he started out, they drove down, he tried like a 35 or 36 yarder, and it's going dead in, and then it looks like somebody has shot it and made it like halfway through the end zone. And he just killed it. It was a great kick. So I was fortunate that my kicks were downwind. And I got the first score of the game, which was that good. We went up 3-0. And then later in the game, we got a 28-yarder. And we run a fake. The fake is there. I mean, there's nobody out there.
Right.
That end is just taken down. I mean, I don't know if he's taken down, but he's turned in. Kreider's running down there. He walks in the end zone. We're celebrating. We're going crazy.
Right.
Boom, yellow flag.
Yep.
Holding call. So I'm because we're all excited, right? We're starting to go back up, and you guys are all we're gonna kick the extra point, but everybody's excited, and all of a sudden it's on. Let's see, Dinkle runs over to Forrest.
Yep.
Forrest, whoever that is, you need to cut him right now. I can't believe that happened. Forrest says, Dink, it was on you. It was on you, Dink. And he goes, and if Breech misses this kick, you're cut.
You're cut. I know, it was classic.
Jimmy, you gotta make this kick. You gotta make this kick, Jimmy. I was able to make the kick, and Dink made, he didn't get cut.
That's the thing about you, though, Clutch. I mean, that's your middle name for sure, and deservedly so. 9 playoff games in your distinguished career. You go 9 for 11 in the field goal department. You don't miss an extra point. And in Super Bowl 23, I mean, you scored 10 points in that game. You give the Bengals our only lead ever in 2 Super Bowl games with a field goal to go up 16-13. I vote for you as an MVP. You're MVP of that Super Bowl. And then, of course, Montana and the 49ers have other plans and kill that thing. But you were, at that time, with a few minutes left in the game when everybody was voting, I'm pretty sure you had it. You were the guy.
John Murdo told me that I was afterwards.
You were the guy, yeah. I mean, it was, in my mind, it was clear cut. How do you compartmentalize, the bigger the game, the more you lived up to the billing? I mean, to perform at your best in the most critical time of your life in professional sports. How do you go about that? What's the thought process?
There's a couple things that occurred over the years. I always loved being in those situations. Mm-hmm. Didn't happen a lot and wasn't always successful, as a kid, but most of the time did pretty well. My freshman year in college, the 3rd game I've ever kicked in, So I'm a quarterback all through. I'm playing the game, and then kicking's just an add-on, right? Just something else I was doing. So now I'm literally standing on the sidelines for 3 hours, and I'd never done that before. I really don't know what to do. I don't know how much should I be stretching. I really don't. I haven't figured it out. And this is only the third game. We're playing USC, #1 in the country, in the Coliseum. We're driving down. We have Steve Bartkowski's our quarterback. Chuck Muncie's our running back. #1 pick that year. The next year, Muntz is the third pick. Both of them were either second or third in the Heisman to Archie. I mean, we had some great people, great players, but our offensive line, the biggest offensive lineman we have was like 240 pounds.
Wow.
And they had guys not even playing that were getting drafted. Unlimited scholarships again, right? So I've got a 34-yard field goal with 11 seconds to go. Middle of the field. They'd been just killing us up the middle. They knocked one guy into me, one of our guys, and they blocked an extra point where the guy's chest was standing right in front of me. Richard Wood, you remember Batman?
Oh, yeah.
Our guy came spinning backwards, and he's standing there, boom, hits him in the chest. So I'm a little shaken, right? I've never had anything like that happen. So I got this 34-yarder, and I pull it left, and I miss it. We end up tying the game. And I spent my whole time there, I was thinking, what are my teammates going to think? What are the coaches going to think? What are they going to write? What are they going to put on TV? What are my family? All these things are going through my mind, but I'm not nervous. I'm okay that way.
Right.
So I missed the kick. Then I'm playing for Oakland. Got a short field goal to tie a game against Kansas City. The same things are going through my mind. I'm thinking all these things about stuff that I don't have any control over, but it's what's going in my head. I'm worried about what other people think.
Right.
So I missed that. I hit it off the upright. Then 80 training camp, Chris Barr gets cut. Because the next week we played Cleveland. I kicked 4 field goals against. I love playing Cleveland, apparently. Even with the Raiders, kicked 4 field goals. So I bounced back really well. But in training camp, I get cut. So I'm out for 12 weeks. So I was Cincinnati, kicked the last 4 weeks. But in those 12 weeks, I'm out there kicking. And it finally dawned on me. If I'd been a little smarter, it might dawn on me sooner. That I can't control all the other stuff, right?
Right.
All I can control is the kick. So I come to Cincinnati. The second game I play in is against Baltimore. Comes down short, 21, 22-yard field goal. And we're down, I think we're down by a point. It was like 33-31. That's what it was, because they missed an extra point. And I make the field goal. There's a great picture. Kreider's jumping in the air. We're jumping in the air. There's a picture. Bengals win. And it's like, all right. So I focused on the kick, right? I can control the kick. Go through the routine. It's the only way you can really accomplish this consistently. You go through your routine, whatever your routine is, go through your routine. And if you do that enough, you can really remove yourself from the situation. So the next week we go to Chicago. Remember, it's blowing, the wind's blowing like 90 miles an hour.
Yep.
I remember trying a 45-yard field goal, and it was like the kick that Bernurska had in the freezer bowl, gets about halfway and just like shot. There was no chance. So anyway, they throw an interception to Lewis Breeden in the end zone at the end of the game, if you remember. So Jack drives us down and hit a 28-yard field goal, win the game, overtime, my first overtime kick.
Yep.
Come in the locker room. Mike Brown comes up, he shakes my hand, he says, "Jim, you really seem to like those situations." I'm like, I couldn't tell him, "Mr. Brown, those are the first 2 I've ever made."
Yeah, I'll tell you. And then you go on to make 9. 9
yeah,
for 9.
But again, it was a mental process that changed.
Yeah.
It was, and that's why guys can come in like the PGA this week. I mean, you have to remove yourself. You have to go through a process that literally takes out that you're in the Super Bowl or you're putting for the U.S. Open or PGA. You have to trick yourself into believing that I've done this a million times. Heck, my 40-yard field goal in the Super Bowl to put us ahead.
Yep.
I'd hit a bunch of kicks from the exact same spot the day before. I mean, I saw where my plant was. I can do this. I can do this. But if you back up, the week just before we leave, Tiger Johnson is regaling us on the sidelines, and he's talking about when he was coaching at Detroit, and Eddie Murray was kicking there, and Eddie Murray's a great kicker. And that was in the Super Bowl tournament, remember, of '82?
Yeah.
So here's Tiger coaching, and I think Eddie's got 41, 42 yards, something like that. If they make it, all the coaches get a $25,000 bonus. I mean, in those days, in '82,
That's serious.
probably half of his salary, right?
That's serious.
He missed the kick. But the more he tells the story, you know how Tiger would go and he starts spitting?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you could just, he was calling him everything he could think of. He just gets angrier and angrier the more he talks about Eddie Murray. Fast forward. We're tie game. I'm standing on the sideline here, Sam saying, let's make sure we get the field goal out of this. And this through my head, which never happened before, man, Tiger will be pissed if I miss this kick. So fortunately, I made the kick.
But 9 for 9 in field goals in overtime, not having a miss. That's still an NFL record, isn't it? I mean, nobody has made 9 for 9.
No. Matter of fact, my son does a good job of keeping track of all that stuff. Like he said something out recently. I've got a better playoff field goal percentage than Adam Vinatieri and Morton Anderson, and I can't remember somebody else really good. Yeah, it's 8. Somebody did go 8 for 8, but everybody that it took up until like 2015 or 16, Adam Vinatieri finally passed me. Jason Hansen and Steve Christie and Jason Elam had all tied me at 9, but they all had a miss. And then Vinatieri finally passed, but Vinatieri's had a miss or two too.
Yeah, never having missed a field goal in overtime is that's pretty heavy duty. I mean, it's so what was in your mind, what was the toughest kick you've ever had to make in your career?
The first one in Oakland. We were playing actually in the LA Coliseum, and again, you're a rookie.
Yeah.
Can I really do this? Am I really capable of this? And it was 36 yards, and I made the kick. And then another tough one was my first game winner, the one against Baltimore, because I'd already missed a couple of those types of kicks. And, if you start questioning yourself, so those two kicks, one made me believe I can kick in the league. Actually, training camp with the Lions made me believe I could kick in the league. And then doing it in an actual game and then making a game winner, those kind of solidified, one, I can do it, and two, my thought process is right in the way that I'm putting this together, so I could focus really well. So
is your most memorable kick the Super Bowl kick that gave the Bengals a lead, or is there another one?
The one against Washington.
Yeah.
Because we were banged up.
Yeah.
Joe had blown his knee out a week or two before.
Joe Walter, yeah.
Joe Walter. We were really hurting, and we needed that extra week. And Chip Lowmiller, 32-yarder, goes up and smacks into the upright. And I thought there was a chance something like that could happen, because in warmups, that ball was just turning. I mean, it was blowing so hard down there, and everything was going right. We're standing out there together about 35, 40 yards. I don't think we made a kick from the right hash. So I was wondering why they didn't move it middle to left, because it was like 40 seconds, so they let the whole clock run down, and then they could have run one play to the left because they had time. They had plays left over. Run to the left hash, kick it right down the hash mark, and keep it inside the right upright. He left it there. It looked good for a long time, and then it just turned right, hits the post, and then I think I can't remember who made the tackle and caused a fumble, but I know Barney ended up recovering it. And then Sam's like, "Do we want to go for it or kick it?" And somebody says, let's kick it. And Sam's, are we good? Are we good where you are? Are we good? Like, we're good, Sam. Because it was on the same right hash, but it was 11 yards closer and made it. And I have a picture of Turk going, just jumping out, going crazy. And I have so many fans that have talked about that game, how big it was. So I think, to me, that's one, because it resonates so much with the fans. It was just something about it. I mean, it gave us home field advantage, really, got us to the Super Bowl because we got the extra week off. I remember Chris talking about that post game, is that, we need this week off. We're banged up.
Yeah.
So that was a really memorable kick for the team and everything, I think.
So Evan McPherson from Florida, 5th-round pick, plays kicker for the Bengals. He has Darren Simmons, 19-year veteran special teams coach, coaching him, who was a punter at Kansas. So he understands the actual kicking game. I know you think highly of Darren Simmons, as do I. I think he's the best in the business.
I agree.
How much of an advantage is it for McPherson to have Darren Simmons as he tries to break into the National Football League?
It's huge. When I look around, there's other coaches that do it well now. And for a long time, especially the coach, thought they knew it, and all they did was mess with guys. But Darren actually does know it. If you look at what Shane Graham did, Shane's best years were while he's with the Bengals. If you look at Mike Nugent, his best years were with the Bengals. And he's going to help him. Now, even if he doesn't have any mechanical things to switch, he'll help him from the mental side. It's going to be awesome. I just hope they give him an opportunity to, if he fails a little bit, give him an opportunity to work through it. Because it's a tough position in that there's a lot of guys out there that are pretty good at it, and it's so noticeable when it goes wrong. But when you miss a kick that's really big, because look at Randy Bullock. Randy had some really good years.
Yeah.
His field goal percentage over the years, he and Jake Elliott have gone on the same years, it's actually higher than Jake's. His extra point percentage is higher than Jake's.
Right.
But he cramps up on the short kick against the Chargers. So it seemed like the kicks he missed were the biggest kicks.
Yeah.
And I remember Reggie Williams telling me, the way you gain respect of the guys on the team is make the big kicks. And those are, for some reason, Randy struggled a little bit with those. And Shane, I mean, if you remember, he missed those two against the short kicks against Jets. And mentally, he was done in Cincinnati right then. He didn't think he could come back, even though they wanted him to come back. So give him the opportunity to work through it. And he may not run into a lot of issues. I mean, the kid is really, really talented. But he was a little bit lower percentage-wise this year than he had been the previous couple of years. But if you look, I watched a few of those kicks. His misses are close. So it's not like he's just shanking a ball or just going haywire. He's giving himself a good chance. And if you continue to give yourself good chances, I hope we have Justin Tucker. Justin, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, he's got a howitzer hanging off of that leg. There's no doubt. So you've been elected to Hall of Fames, your college Hall of Fame, and others, obviously. And
Sacramento Bears.
Sacramento Bears, there you go. And
Pop Warner football.
Like it. But the Ring of Honor, the ballot comes out, and you're on that ballot, all-time leading scorer in team history. What did that mean to you when you were contacted by the organization that you were one of the 17 members? Paul Brown and Anthony Munoz are in. Those two are in. The Hall of Famers up in Canton, they're in. Then 17 guys for a couple of spots remaining for that first class, and you're one of those 17 guys. What did that mean to you?
Unbelievably humbling. Like you started off this by saying, did you ever think you would play those 14, whatever, play that long or to be the all-time leading scorer? Dave, I really didn't think I'd ever play a game in the NFL. And then after I got cut in Oakland, I knew I could tell people I played 1 year in the NFL. I really thought that was going to be it. And to be 13 years after that, playing 2 Super Bowls, lead the AFC in scoring twice, retire as the 10th leading scorer in NFL history, that was never on the radar, I can tell you that. So to be included as one of the guys as being nominated is just, it's unbelievable. I mean, it's so incredible. The top 5 being the 5th choice in the top 50 was crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, this whole thing is, been remarkable. And just, I'm so thankful. I feel so blessed, really, but I'm really humbled by it.
Well, nobody deserves it more than you, and you're just a phenomenal teammate. And the thing that everybody appreciated about you is when you know, a lot of kickers, it's like they're not really, you know, football players as such, but you would when there was a look team, you know, scout team running plays against our defense, you'd be out there, you know, running routes at wide receiver and doing things that you could do because of the athlete you are and always have been. And you're just a phenomenal teammate, you know, in so many ways to guys. So well-deserved honor. There's no question about it. And I'm glad that the organization is going in that direction with the Ring of Honor. It's good. It's a celebration. It's good for everybody. It's good for players, coaches, fans, the entire city. It really is.
I agree. You know, I think one of the things that may have been an impetus to this is the way the fans responded to the top 50.
Yeah.
But I remember talking to a guy. You remember the '88 team? We had the thing there at on the club level, question and answer, and all the fans are in there. One of the guys came up to me afterwards. He says, "This is probably the best thing I've ever been to as a Bengal fan, because this is amazing. Because seeing you guys is incredible." And I think they're finally appreciating, because the thing that I never could understand, Mike, if you hear Mike talk about his days in Cleveland, oh my gosh, I mean, how big were those informing him as a young man? And he loved that time. And I'd never quite understood how he wouldn't want to bring something like that to Cincinnati. And now the opportunity is arising. I know he feels that it's a team sport, and we all feel it's a team sport. But if you don't have so many good individuals, you're probably not going to have much success. In our '80s, we had some pretty good success, going 2 Super Bowls, and really, except for '87, we went down at 80 we didn't, because that was the start of forces there, and '87 was a strike, and that was a mess. Every other year in the '80s, 2 Super Bowls, 1 other playoffs. We were in the playoff hunt on the last day of the season every one of those years.
Yeah.
So there's guys. I mean, how there's one guy in the Hall of Fame, it's unbelievable.
It is. I mean, that's the thing. You know, the Ring of Honor, the reunion, the picking the 50th anniversary reunion for the 50 players. You start looking at the guys, particularly in that, like you said, in the decade of the '80s, 81, 82 seasons. You know, this football team went 12-4 and 7-2. It's 19-6. That's the best winning percentage in the National Football League, strike shortened season, over a season stretch. And then the '88 team that goes to the Super Bowl 23. That decade of the '80s, I mean, there were a ton of great players.
10-6 and 86.
Yep, 10-6 and 86. So it's I'm glad that it's happening, and it is. To me, it's a holiday, man. It's a celebration.
Congratulations to you.
Oh,
also, you know, they should have player, contribute, broadcaster. You're going to fall in. You're going to be the John Madden of the Bengals.
Yeah, right.
Just come out with a video game, dude, and you'll be all over it.
Yeah. All right, final question. And appreciate you carving the time you did. Gosh, I was very selfish with my time.
Can I ask one of you after this?
Yeah, but what are you doing these days? Fill everybody in. What's going on?
I'm retired, actually.
Are you?
Just retired. I worked at Hauser.
Yeah,
for 20. It's in the insurance industry for 24 years, and last September, retired. So just staying busy around the house. Wife's had some health issues, so spent a lot of time with her, playing a little bit. Actually played a lot of golf. The most golf I've ever played last year. Get a call from Anthony, and out I go. So
yeah, I'll tell you.
We played a lot of golf together.
That's great.
But yeah, getting settled in there and enjoying life a little bit, trying to enjoy life. If she gets healthier, I'd feel a lot better about it. But yeah, things are good.
Well, our hopes and thoughts and prayers.
Now, my question for you.
Yes.
So Jackson Carman.
Yes.
Was he a surprise to you?
No.
Okay.
Because
did you know they were really interested in him?
I knew that he was a candidate, you know, in the offensive line. I knew that he had gotten some pretty high grades from the scouting, you know, area of things, and He's very, very out. I mean, his feet, he's got really good feet. And they were impressed with that. That was one of the guys that I knew that they had in the mix of quite a few guys. So it did, I think, trading back like they did in the fourth round was gutsy. A lot of offensive linemen started coming off. They run a defense.
Kevin Jenkins is a mauler.
Oh, he is. He's a brute, man. He's an enforcer. But defensive linemen toward the end of the first round, there was a run there, and then the run of offensive linemen early in the second was like, oh, I hope there's going to be one left there. You don't trade back 6 spots unless you feel comfortable that somebody's going to be there that you feel good about drafting. So getting those 2 extra fourth rounders, I think, has made their draft potentially. We'll see. At the mini camp, all of them looked worthy. There's no doubt. And Frank Pollock, see if he can develop the big boy. But he's very smart, Breacher. I mean, he's a smart kid.
That's what I've heard. It was interesting. I started watching some film of him, some clips. He talk about a mauler. He just destroys people. And the only drawback I saw, sometimes he gets up on his toes and he gets a little bit off of balance, and that to me is something could be cleaned up. Frank will clean that up.
Yep. You're right. Sometimes guys can, you got to get your feet planted on the ground and get them anchored a little bit. Sometimes guys can be a little bit too light on their feet, particularly with
Cedric Ogbuehi. I think Cedric Ogbuehi was a little bit too light on his feet.
Yeah, I think he had some other issues as well, from a competitive nature standpoint and everything else. But
and he seems to be very competitive. I mean, he really wants to be a good player. He loves the game. His guys are Zach Martin and Quentin Nelson. They can't be all bad.
Yeah, those are 2 good guards to watch. Those are probably the 2 best in the National Football League right now, and those are 2 good guys to watch. And it'll be interesting to see his progression and development. But I think the fact that local kid, I think that takes some of the pressure off. I mean, he's very familiar with his surroundings. I mean, there's a lot of pluses for him to consider when you're thinking about transitioning and then developing him in the National Football League. So, hey, the ball's in his court, no question about it. And see if Frank Pollock can mold some clay there.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad it's Frank molding the clay. I think he'll do a great job.
I hear you. Can't thank you enough. It was very, very entertaining. A lot of great stories, like I knew there would be. And
thanks, Lap, and I hope you're one of the great storytellers of all time. I love just sitting around and hear you tell stories. So, thanks for having me on.
You're the best, sir. Have a great day, Jim.
All right. Thanks, Lap.